you for coming down. I don't know if it's your lunch hour or not, but my name is Michelle Steinhaus, and I'm a registered nurse, and I work in St. Luke's Community Outreach Department. And I was here about a year ago talking about general cancers. Anybody else was here for that general talk on cancer? You were? Okay. You probably remember it all. So now we're breaking it down to just skin cancer. So we're breaking it down just to skin cancer. And it's sort of a timely topic right now because guess what? The sun's out. People are going to be out more. And this is some things hopefully you walk away with some things you can do to protect your skin now. So this is very informal. So if you raise your hand, we can ask questions, just throw them out there, I don't care. It's just really trying to get you educated in how to protect yourself from the damage of the sun. So. All right, so skin cancer is one of the most, the most common type of cancers. You know, you think everybody, when you hear cancer, what do you think of? Breast, prostate, colon, okay. Those are, but the most common one is skin cancer. And you can see up there the statistics says 3.5 million skin cancers diagnosed each year, and it's increasing each year with more than 73,000 cases of melanoma. Melanoma is the one that's the serious one, and that's the one that you hear about. But there's other skin cancers that can develop into serious ones too. And 1 in 5 will develop skin cancer in the course of a lifetime. So let me have you raise your hand since we got about 12, 13 people here. Who's had like a precancerous spot taken off or a basal cell or a squamous cell taken off their skin? So there you go. 3 out of the 12 people that are here have had that done. So that's just something to be aware of when you do that. So what exactly is skin cancer? It occurs when there's a mutation in the DNA of your skin cells. And how does that happen? Well, it's the UVA, UVB rays from the sun. It's like a radiation. So when you hear about radiation from the nuclear power plants, whatever, that's a radiation from the sun. It's going to change your DNA in your cells. Most often develops on your skin's top layer, the epidermis, and the epidermis has 3 types of cells, and they're squamous, basal, and the melanocytes, excuse me. So those are the 3 types of epidermis. And you hear what I said, there's a basal cell skin cancer, the squamous cell cancer, and then you go into the melanites, which is then your melanomas, and it's a little bit different there. So those are the cancers that you're going to see on the skin. As you can see, the melanoma is less common, but far more serious, and that's where you want to, those go more with your moles, as you can see in the handout I have out there. It's something you can check, but that's what they usually find. So we're going to start with a basal cell first. That is the one that occurs mostly on the sun-exposed areas of your body, so your neck, face, lower arms. It's a pearly white, and I have pictures that you can see. It's flat, flesh-colored or brown scar. And a lot of times you'll see them like, there can be a family history too, but my sister and my dad, you know, years apart, both had a basal cell taken off their nose. But again, that's what's out in the sun, what's exposed a lot. So this is some examples of what a basal cell looks like. And it's usually people say it's a sore or there's a little reddish thing that doesn't go away. It stays on your skin. You put cortisone cream on it, you put Neosporin, you do all this stuff, but it just stays there. It doesn't go away. And that's when you need to see a dermatologist because they'll take that off. They can just freeze it off. Has anybody had anything frozen off? Boy, does it get those nerve endings stimulated, let me tell you. So especially if it's on your face. And then they come back. They'll actually probably, if they think that it looks like a basal cell, they'll do a biopsy of it to make sure. Excuse me. And then they'll come back and say, yes, it was basal cell or it was nothing. And then after that, they'll say, come back in 6 months or come back in a year, depending on how big it was, what it was, if there's any other sites, and what your history is too. And they'll just keep an eye on that site because they can grow if they don't get it all. The next one you hear is squamous cell carcinoma, and it's most often, again, ears, face, and the hands. It's a firm red nodule. It's a little bit different, or a flat lesion with scaly, crusty surface. Okay, and so I'm going to just get to the next picture. And this is what it looks like. My husband, who was raised in California, was a lifeguard. And what do you think? Prime candidate for, yes, he had a squamous cell on his forearm. and he had it removed. Well, after he told me about it, it's been there for about 2 months. I'm like, you need to go see a dermatologist. It's been there too long. And then he went and had it removed, and then it came back because they didn't get it deep enough. He had it removed again, and the dermatologist said, if it comes back, you're going to have you heard of the Mohs procedure? Well, the Mohs procedure is what they do is they take off a layer of skin at a time until they get a clean layer so that hopefully they get all the cancer and it won't come back. But luckily, he hasn't had to have that done. I got it the second time. Now he's got a nice little scar, and that's why they sort of do the Mohs, especially if you have it on your forehead or something, to have a plastic surgeon do it so they can just take it off layer by layer and they don't have to go any deeper than they need to. So that's what it looks like. And especially the crusty, and it doesn't go away. It's there for weeks and weeks. Well, after a 1 week or 2 week, you probably go see a dermatologist. And then the third kind, which is less common but more serious, is your melanoma. And it can develop anywhere on your body, trunk, head, between the toes. Anybody watch House when it was on? There was a person in the hospital, he was African American actually, and he had melanoma between the toes. So it doesn't, the skin cancer is more from the sun. It will happen, on your face and arms that are exposed, but you also can get the cancers and melanomas in different places. I was talking to another person, and she said her brother had a melanoma, and it was on his waistband. So you're thinking that couldn't have been out in the sun that much either. So don't think of it as being exposed to the sun. You're going to have a melanoma. It's more the mole and the development of the abnormal cells there. And I started talking about it. It's a large brownish spot with dark speckles. It has different things, and I have some pictures of that too we can show you. It's a mole that changes colors, size, or feels different. So that's why it's important to know your moles and if they're changing, evolving, that kind of thing. And on that sheet, you'll see what it all talks about, the ABCD and the evolving. And it can be dark lesions on your palms, your soles, your fingertips, your toes. They can even be in your hair. That's why my dermatologist always looks through my hair when she does a thorough exam, because you can have a melanoma up here. So this is one example of it. As you can see, it's not rounded. There's rough borders. There's multiple colors on there. It's probably grown in size. It's definitely time to have that looked at and taken off. And here's some other pictures of melanomas. So you can see it's not that nice round mole that you have. It changes shapes, colors. It's not their border is rough, and then it's not asymmetric. So again, if it starts changing into that, it's time to go see your dermatologist. All right. So what are your risk factors for having skin cancer? Any type, unprotected skin is exposed to the UVA rays. So when you go out in the sun, there's UVA, UVB rays. There's also UVC. Go on to that one. And the UVA and the UVB are the ones that they're finding that does the damage to your skin and causes a skin cancer. The UVA causes the wrinkles that we have when we go out too, so it's really important too. And a lot of times it's already the damage you've done in your younger years, in your teenage years that show up. So, if you were one of those people that worship the sun or did the tanning booths, then you're going to be high candidate for skin cancer in your 40s and 50s. That's when they tend to show up, because it takes a while for those cells, those damaged cells, to evolve into the cancer. So if you look at now, think what you can do is to protect yourself going forward. But if you had the blister on your chest or your shoulders, that's one of the risk factors for skin cancer as you get older. All right. We talked about those. The UVC rays don't really get through the sun, so they're not really considered a cause of skin cancer. Another place is we're lucky that we live in St. Louis, one of the reasons, because we don't really get that intense sun year-round like if you were in Florida or down in Texas or something like that. So we do get out of the sun. Like I talked about having sunburns as a child, having fair skin and burn easily. So that's one of those people that I have a son who's like that. If he's out in the sun for more than 10 minutes, he comes back red. So he has to be very protective of him, and he has that red hair, fair skin. And then a family history of skin cancer can also be a risk factor, or a personal history. So once you have it, you need to go see a dermatologist every year at least, unless he says, like when my husband had that one taken off. He was going every 3 months, then it was every 6 months, and now it's every year since it didn't come back with that. Freckles sort of goes along with that. Redhead, blondes, light-colored eyes, and then certain medicines can make you more sensitive to the light. I'm sure you've gotten those antibiotics that says stay out of the sunlight. That's one of the reasons is your increases intensity so you can burn easier. And then your weakened immune system can change too. So if you have any of those, you're at increased risk. So how do you want to protect yourself from the UV rays? Protective clothing is the best thing. I know we don't get that color that we like. Everybody thinks, you know, that you're healthy when you get that nice tan, but I think they're swinging the I guess the models or whatever, saying that pasty white is okay. I know you might not feel it and you might not feel healthy, but it is okay. So the other way you can get around it is you just wear that, it's better than using a tanning booth, is those lotions that give you a little color for that. But it really is, protective clothing is one of the best things you can do. You want to wear a sunscreen with at least an SPF factor of 30. SPF stands for sunscreen protection factor. And so 15 is okay, but 30 is the best. You don't need to go higher than 30 because with the 30 you get like a 97% protective rate. If you go to a 50 you get a 98%. So you're only going up at a very bit. The best thing is, and the research has found is if people get 100, you know, I put 100 on it, you know, I can stay out as long as I want. It doesn't work that way. You still need to reapply after 2 hours, whether you get 100, a 50, a 30, or a 15. You still have to reapply because it is going to wear off. So just be aware that a hat with sunglasses to shade your face and your eyes, because if your eyes get exposed to the sun, what happens in later life? Cataracts. So it's important to have your kids wear them too to protect their eyes for later in life. You don't want to get the cataracts. And then the hat, you want the wide brim hat because it just protects more of your face than just a baseball cap. I had a precancerous spot taken off just recently right here, and my doctor was like, yeah, that's, you know, left side, you drive a lot. So, you know, she wasn't surprised that it was on the one side and not the other. She said just because, you know, that's exposed to the sun when you're driving. And windshields don't protect you. Glass in your car did not protect you. You still get those rays through that. So don't think just because you drive around a lot you don't. And they'll know if there's a truck driver or something because they'll have their whole left side is going to be their risk factor because of all the driving that they do. The other thing that a lot of people forget about is their lips. How many people have gotten their lips burned being out there? Yeah. So that's a good thing, is just to get a lip balm that you just have with you all the time. You just put it on, especially when you're going to be out in the sun, because that's no fun. Somebody said it looks like you had Botox when you have those. You know, it's like you do. Your lips just swell up. My husband gets it, but he doesn't. His do. They just swell up really big, but that's what it looks like, and it doesn't feel very good either. So don't forget that. So this is just a little thing that we talk with the kids about too. And if you have kids or grandkids or whatever, it's slip, slop, slap. You want to slip on a shirt because that's the protective. They have those body gloves now that you can put on kids that make it easier. Actually, my son's 20, and I still make him wear a body glove just because he's when we're going out in the sun. And he hates getting sunburned, so he's okay with it too. You want to put on the sunscreen at least 15 minutes before you go outside. How many people do that? Good for you. I'm lucky if I can remember before I go outside to do it. But I'm doing it better if you have it out there and ready to go, if you know you're going to be out for a long period of time. Because that means it absorbs into your skin, and then it has a more protective when you go out there and do it. And then you want to put on a hat also to protect your face, neck, and eyes even at that point. So on the sunscreen, everybody says, okay, what should I get? Well, you want one that says broad spectrum, or it says UVA, UVB protection against. Those are the two rays, like I said earlier, that is going to cause you to get the sunburns and the damage. You want to have it SPF at least 30 if you can, and then water resistant, because you're going to sweat when you're out and all that too. And you want to apply it properly. So how much do you think you need to cover your body? Most people in general. How much? Who said that? Very good. So an ounce is like a shot. How many people they think put an ounce on their body when they go out? Well, then that's why you're getting sunburn. I'm just saying. No, that's what they recommend, is putting an ounce on your body. So if you think about that as an ounce is like in a shot, you just rub it on. The other question was the sprays, do they protect? Yes, they do, if you get it on where you're supposed to get it, because sometimes you're spraying and the wind's going and there goes half your spray, and you come back and you're like, huh, I missed a spot right here. So they recommend, if you want to use the spray, and one of the reasons why you don't want to use the spray is because you don't want to get the suntan lotion on your hands, is rub it in with your hands, so you make sure you get it all over. So that's the issue with the sprays, is that yes, they do protect, but you got to put them on and you got to make sure it gets on the right spots. So you want to be generous with it, like we talked about, and you also want to reapply every 2 hours after swimming or sweating or just towel drying, because as soon as you put anything on your body, you're wiping that sunscreen off. So just remember that. And no sunscreen protects you completely. So yes, you can go out, but if you don't reapply, even if you do reapply, you still might get sunburn. So, any questions so far? You guys are quiet. Don't fall asleep on me. I know you probably just had lunch and ready to go. All right, these are the dermatologist's nightmare: sun tanning beds and sun lamps. Now, they do have a purpose for some diseases. If people have skin psoriasis and stuff, but that's under the doctor's care. It's not for somebody to go out and say, oh, I'm going to go get tan before I go to the beach. It still gives you the UVA and UVBs, and so you're still getting those rays that are going to damage your skin, and they're finding now that people are getting skin cancers younger and younger than they used to. It used to be over 40s. Now you're seeing it more in your 30s and 20s. And actually in the 25 to 29 age range, they've increased dramatically. So just be aware of that. They're not, sun tanning booths are, if it was up to the I think any doctor, they probably outlaw them because it doesn't do anything, except for people that need it for their psoriasis. But that's under, like I say, the management of a doctor. And what they do recommend instead is, if you really need that tan, is go to get the lotions that have it on there. Again, you're putting chemicals on your body. That's your choice. So who knows how you're absorbing them. But if you really need that tan, that's better than the sun tanning booth. So what you want to do is you want to regularly check your skin at least once a month, especially if you're in those high-risk categories. If you've been exposed to the sun and got burned as a child, if you're fair-haired, if you have the red hair, blue-eyed, you burn easily, that's what they want to do. And check your moles. If you have a lot of moles, you should check them just to make sure they're not changing and evolving. Learn your pattern so you know that, oh, this looks the same, it's been like that for 5 years, or, oh, this one's changing. I might need to see, you can start with your primary, and the primary can tell you, what, you need to go to a dermatologist. It depends on who your primary is. Some primaries really do a thorough job on your skin, and some don't. We had a discussion with this last week with a group of people, and she said, I've never had my doctor look through my scalp and all through it, and everything. And so she felt comfortable that she didn't have to go to a dermatologist unless her primary. And sometimes, it just depends on how thorough they are with their exam. So you want to use the face mirror. You can check. And, the hard thing is you can't check your back. It's really hard to do that, and a lot of times you'll have moles on there. So if you think there's something bothering you or looking at it, you can just, check it in the mirror or have somebody else look at it for you, or if you're going to see your physician, make sure they check that out. So there's just some areas that you need to check there. You can sit down using a hand mirror. You can look at all that between your toes. Dr. House, I'm telling you, House was surprising to me. And then these are the warning signs right here. So again, it's sort of like a change in the size, shape, color, redness or a new swelling, a change in sensation. So it's itching now, it's more tender, a sore that does not heal. We sort of talked about that. That's one of the things you can see. Something that's new. If any of these things are happening, always consult your doctor. If they can find something in a stage 1, it's so much easier to treat than if you come in with a stage 4. And it might not even be cancer, but you'll sleep better at night. How many times have you had those worries, and then finally you went and saw the doctor and it wasn't what you thought it was going to be? You just get that out of the way. So if you think it's evolving, and it might be evolving, that you need to go see the physician, but let them decide and see where you need to go from there. So again, this is the ABCDE rule. It's asymmetry, the border, the color, the diameter, and then evolving. So if it's changing. So if any of those things start changing in your mole, that's when you need to see your physician and get it checked out. and that's very easy because they can do a biopsy. So here you go. Here's my little joke for the day. As long as your mole doesn't have an irregular shape, I wouldn't worry about it. That's not true because it's gotten a little bigger, I'm sure. All right. Anybody have any questions on that so far? I mean, this is really, yes. It possibly could, but right now it hasn't changed anything. Was it a mole or was it just a red spot? Yeah. A large freckle? Yeah. No, sometimes even a dermatologist will say, I'm not sure, let's just biopsy to be on the safe side. And so they'll do it, and it could be nothing. It would just be a freckle, you know, or it could change, and you just keep an eye on it. If it gets scaly, that's another sign that it's evolving, changing. But absolutely, yeah, it could. Yeah. I have not heard anything about that, but the exposure to that isn't, you know, that much. It's like, what, 3 minutes total? So that would be the thing that would go along with that. Yeah. Yes.
I think it was earlier in the week, you all in the news about how those various sunscreens.
What they said they were?
Maybe find out which ones are really good ones.
You'd probably have to go onto a consumer report type of thing and just have them rate them as what they are. Yeah, that's really interesting. It could, yeah, but it's true. I mean, you know, but that's what you want an SPF of at least 30, and that's going to protect you. And again, it's not going to protect you all overall. So that's why you wear sunglasses, you wear a hat, you wear the long sleeves. You try not to. What's the worst time to be out in the sun? 10 to 2, 10 to 4, depending on who you talk to. And so you try, if you're really sensitive to the sun and you know you've had that, like my husband, anytime he goes out now because he's had it, he wears a light long sleeve thing and always has a hat on. And he's always wearing sunglasses because he's one of those people that as soon as they go out in the sun, they don't have them on, they start sneezing. So he always wears sunglasses. So, but anyway, I'm just saying that that's his protection. And he also puts on sunscreen, but he's just, you know, but yeah, I think the best way would to go onto the consumer report and see what they rate and who it is, because they have to do all that testing. But the other thing is, if you have a dermatologist, they might know too what they would recommend. You could call them up and just say, hey, I saw this report on the news. What would you recommend for me? Good question. Anything else? There have. It's a country. They have now outlawed it so that 18. You have to be over 18, a legal adult, unless your parent says you can do it. And I'm not sure I would trust that parent if they said yes, unless it was, you know, like I say, a medical thing. But they have been. But it's you know, you've got the big industry. You know, anything else that's good for us. It's like labels on food now. They're finally getting that changed, and they should have been changed a while ago so people can know what they're eating and what's good for them. So, but yes, they have been. You can talk to any dermatologist; they'll tell you they're big effort, and I think it's a move forward when they finally got it to 18, where people just couldn't go in and do it unless they were 18. And they probably, it's state by state too. I bet you California and New York have stricter regulations on that, but I don't know for sure. Okay. Anything else? All right, now it's your turn. It's audience participation. It's a little quiz I have for you. See if you're listening. What? This didn't turn out right. Oh, yes, it did. Okay. If I can't get sunscreen or sun cancer, excuse me. You can read this, but anyway, I cannot get skin cancer because my routine work, indoor hobby, and vacation doesn't include any outdoor activities. True or false? Yes, false. So you can still get skin cancer even if you are not out a lot. So there you go. If I wear sunscreen, I can stay in the sun as long as I want. Great. You guys are listening. Okay. Next question. A sunscreen labeled SPF 30 blocks twice as much UVA UV radiation as one label, SPF 15. True or false? That's false. I didn't mention that. 15 is about 93%. I think it's 92.7, so I just rounded up. Whereas in the 30 is 97% protection factor. So no, just because it's double doesn't mean you're going to get double protection. And how often do you need to reapply? Water-resistant sunscreen. Notice I put that water-resistant in there. All of the above. Very good. Very good. Getting a base tan at an indoor tanning salon is a good way to prevent sunburn when I go to the beach later this summer. It's false. You might feel like that. You might not get a sunburn, but you're still doing damage to your skin. So it's still going to make the changes in the DNA, which is what you don't want. What are the two most common and painful sunscreen mistakes? Not using enough is one of them. Yes. And I know why you said that. So choosing the SPF that's below 30 or missing spots and then using too little or waiting too long, either any of those, waiting too long to reapply. So again, I'm sure you guys have all done this. Put on the sunscreen and then to reapply, and the next day you're like, oh, I should have put some more sunscreen on. Or that later that night, you're looking for the aloe vera to put on. Okay, long hours in the sun without protecting your eyes increases your chances of developing cataracts. True. It is true. And I should use a sunscreen with SPF 30 or more. Absolutely. So here's another. Stay out of the sun, kids. Because not only does it cause skin cancer, it causes wrinkles too. I'm sure you've seen those people, those older women in Florida that are the color of those chairs and wrinkles is that because they've been out in the sun a lot. Okay, so takeaways from this whole thing: you want to limit your direct sunlight, cover up, wear a hat, sunglasses, lip balm, sunscreen, and avoid the tanning beds and sun lotions, and use a sunscreen SPF 30 or more every 2 hours. The best thing would be to cover up, though, if you could, because then you don't have to worry about it sweating off or rubbing off. Yes?
What about for, some folks who have that depression in the winter months and they say, doctor says vitamin D or something. If they're to use a tanning bed during the winter months for that vitamin D, should they then?
You can get vitamin D with a supplement.
Right.
I'm just kidding. They have that sad seasonal affect disorder. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah. The sunlight, they say yes. You just have to monitor it. Again, wear sunscreen. You're not getting it. You're not doing it for the tan. Do it for that. So wear the sunscreen. You wear protective clothing in there, and just not try and get your sun that way. And take a vacation in January. I'm just kidding. That helps though. That helps them to get out there. But yeah, and somebody was saying that he has psoriasis, and his brother has it really bad too, and so they use it for that. And I said, but you're not in it as long probably as you would for a tan. You just go in it to, help keep it dry. And he said, yeah, that's true. And so. Mm-hmm.
And it was all over me. And it was big, blotchy, scaly, and I would do that. I would lay in a tanning bed sometimes twice a week just to help dry it out.
Yeah, and you probably, like I said, you're working with a physician probably too, saying it's okay, but don't do it for the tan. You're doing it to help dry out the skin. Yeah.
Is that like watered down?
No, actually it's really good, especially this time of year, is to have a moisturizer with an SPF 15. You're not going to find a lot with 30, but if you wear makeup, sometimes the makeup has an SPF in it. Not that putting two 15s is going to make it a 30, but it's going to block it off. Plus, as the day goes on, I'm sure it wears off too, so you would just have to reapply it. Just because you put it on in the morning, it's probably not going to be there in the afternoon if you're going to be outside. So just reapply. Okay. I think it's a year and a half. And you really have to be, I mean, what happens is the chemicals in it change, and so it loses its effectiveness. So yeah, I would definitely look at that, you know, just restock every year just to be safe. So, and we have this thing called a skin analyzer, and it doesn't show anything except for it gives you the UVA, UVB lights on your face and scares you because you can see all the damage. But then when we put a little sunscreen on somebody's hand just to show them the difference, it blocks out it all. It just turns like a purple. And so it's a good visual to show you that yes, sunscreen will block out those rays, and you just have to use enough of it to make sure it works. Because that's the issues. Is, you know, missing spots, not using enough, not reapplying. And that's okay. That's all I got, unless you guys have any more questions. I do, if nobody got the handouts out there, it's from the American Dermatology Association, and it has probably almost everything I just went over here, and it has pictures too of the different types of skin cancer, which that's what I like. And again, if you ever have a question, just talk to your physician. And I don't know if I told you this recommendation is after 40 for everybody to see a dermatologist, and it might be even sooner depending on how burnt in your family history and your coloring. They might send you sooner, but at least over 40 if you had those risk factors. With that.
Noelle, if you're still taping, you can end it now.
Okay, thank you.